Good evening. Welcome to the Tewksbury Planning Board meeting of January 25th, 2021. Being a quorum present, I'd like to bring this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, the Tewksbury planners, no, I'm sorry. Approval of the minutes of January 11th, 2021.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 11th, 2021 as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Fattalia,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you. Next item, committee reports, administrative actions. Any committee to report?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a committee report. Being a member of the local housing partnership, we met last week with a quorum present, and as well as town planner and Steve Sadwick. And there was some discussion about the possibility of getting some additional help with for the committee. And that was in the form of a possible consultant to assist us in the committee and its functions. As you know, there's a lot of moving parts with DCHD and its affordable housing regulations and so forth. So we're looking to try to bring some new life into the board, so to say, per se, as far as new ideas, things to look at, with an effort and a goal to promoting affordable housing in Tewksbury. So that was the discussion, and it's going to be a continuous discussion with the town manager, I believe, and Mr. Sadwick, and maybe the selectmen as well. So so that was the gist of the meeting. And our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 16th, to continue that discussion. So,
All right,
did I
thank
miss
you.
anything, Anna?
No, Mr. Fratalia.
Good, thank you.
I have
That's all,
one
Mr.
question.
Fowler.
Thank you. I have one question. Who is your selectman representative to that committee?
It's Selectman Anne Marie Stronach.
All right. Okay. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Thank you for the update.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda, town planner report. Mrs. McGinty, do you have anything for us?
No, Mr. Chairman, there is no report this week.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Mr.
Next
Chairman,
item, yes?
I feel like it's probably an administrative action discussion. I mean, it may wait for new business. You guys can tell me, but it pertains a little bit to what the conversation we had at our last meeting, and it revolved at that time around 181 Pine Street.
Right.
But I wanted to make a suggestion, and I didn't know if what the other board members would think, but maybe potentially going forward, setting our own rule that we won't continue any of these more than 3 times without either having the petitioner come in or sending us a detailed update, something more than just, hey, can you continue it to the next meeting? We could do it a few times, but maybe after we've done it 3 times, they either have to come in or have to send us a detailed update as to what's going on, what's holding them up, what are they working on. I mean, I don't want to mandate that they have to come in, because sometimes if you have consultants, it can cost you something to just send somebody in to tell us nothing new's going on. So I'm okay with having a written, update, but something more than just, hey, can you kick this to the next meeting, to the next meeting, to the next meeting? And maybe it'll prevent us, if people know that in advance, that we're not going to just do that over and over again. We won't have to, make somebody come in or whatever. They already need to know. We'll do this a few times, but after that, we want some sort of updates as to what's going on, or we're not going to sit on something forever.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If you recall last meeting on the 11th, we made mention after we found out that they weren't going to be on, that we wanted, just as you said, we wanted information. We don't want to continue these meetings. And I believe we even said that we want someone at this next meeting, whether you're ready or not, And I think that's why Mr. Plunk has sent us the letter and he's already on the agenda. I mean, he's on the screen. But I appreciate your thoughts on that. And we will, when it comes time, when we get to item D, we'll discuss it. If we have to take some action, we'll do it then.
Oh, no, my apologies, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean for 181. I meant that was what made me think of it. I'm saying
Yeah,
that we set a rule for ourselves for any hearing for anyone,
sure.
not 181. I mean, from now on going forward, everybody's on notice that we will not continue a hearing more than 3 times without receiving either a written update or someone showing up to give us an update at a hearing.
Okay.
And that's for everybody after this. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. I'm sorry.
Is that in the form of a motion?
If we can do it that way, I would. If that's
I
how
think so.
the other members are fine with it.
Mr. Patalia?
Yeah, Mr.
You
Chairman, just a comment. I think Stephen's right. I mean, we sit on this board here week after week, trying to do the best we possibly can. And whoever the applicant is, if they're holding up a particular spot on the agenda, which we all know can be filled at, to capacity at most of the meetings, it's just not fair to the other applicants that, they take up a slot and not keep us informed. I mean, it just so happens we have these continued, and we'd rather just as soon get them going, because we lose the opportunity to keep in our minds the freshness of the applicant and the site and so forth and so on. So if it gets continued, it's just not fair to us as far as board members and the general public as well, because they're looking for this to be heard and seen. And if we just continue it, it kind of loses its taste and the sense of urgency to get resolved. So, and I kind of agree with Mr. Johnson that we should do something. So,
Thank you, Mr. Patalia. Mr. Who's here? Mr. Delaney?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I agree. I mean, it seems like we've let this go for a long time. And I think what happens is, even for us, when we see, well, we can use 181 Pine Street as an example. Okay, when we see it come up, we take the time to prepare with the information that we already have. We don't know where the changes are going to be and so forth, but it's still our time that we're taking to get ready to discuss this particular development or whatever. And I agree with Mr. Johnson. We should do something and only hear it so many times. And then when they're ready, send us a letter and let it be, let it happen. But I do agree with it. Something has got to be done.
Yep. If you don't mind, Mr. Johnson, why don't we hold off on a motion till after at close of the meeting? The last
good.
item on the agenda happens to be 181 Pine Street, so after that, maybe
Sounds
we'll
good
have
to
a
me.
better feel then. All right?
Works for me.
Very good, thank you. Next item on the agenda, land disturbance permit, fee schedule revision. Anybody have any comments on that information? Mr. Fratalia?
I would say, Mr. Fowler, just one comment, and we seem to have always been lenient as far as this land disturbance permit and waiving the fee and so forth and the permit. So if we're going to make the change, let's make the change. Request the permit be paid, and if they want to waive the permit, then we'll take the fee in lieu of and still do the waiver. So, but I mean, we can use the money, I'm sure, as a town of Pittsburgh. So I have no problem with the recommended fee increase.
All right, well, thank you. Mr. Delaney?
No, I agree. I'm all set.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
I'm all set.
And Kira's all set also.
Mr.
yes,
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a correction? So with stormwater bylaw that passed,
Right.
fee can no longer be waived, like this requirement. So all applications now, if they fall into this category, will have to apply to a land disturbance permit.
Sure.
Just
Okay,
want to state that for the record.
that's good.
Great, thank you, Anna, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. All right.
We-
Is there any vote?
Do we want to make a motion to adopt the fee
Yep.
schedule as submitted?
Yeah, yes. I wanted to ask one question. What was the difference between the permit fee before and now? Was it significant or?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may respond to that question.
Go right ahead.
So in your the memo submitted by
Yep.
Ms. Louder outlines the current application fee. I can certainly read that out for the record if you'd like.
No, that's all right. No, that's
But
fine.
this one, the new fee schedule reflects it's for less than 1 acre, the fee would be $250, and then more than 1 acre, it's $500 for the fee. And the difference there is when it's over 1 acre or more, there's a public hearing requirement, so that's why there's a higher fee.
Okay. All right.
So Anna, another question while we're on this topic is, why don't we continue the greater than 10 acres as a larger fee?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in this fee calculation, so Mr. was involved in this.
Okay, I
They
mean,
wanted to do a flat fee.
under the old application fee schedule, it was greater than 10 acres was 500, which is almost 5 times more than, 5 times more than the 3 acres, you know, or less than 3 acres, but so. I mean, I just think maybe we should be adding that in just as an additional revenue source. I don't know if anybody has that.
My only question would be, would that put us out of whack with other people? Is the reason we're at 250 and 500 in this recommendation because that just puts us in line with everybody else?
Once again, I wasn't involved in this process, so certainly report back to you guys if you'd like to continue the item.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Mhm.
Next item on the agenda, or just for the record before I forget again, is anybody who's watching who'd like to call to be heard? The phone number is 781-565-8134. 781-565-8134. Thank you.
So Chairman, can we also advertise what channel it's on Comcast and so forth and so on?
No.
Do we have that?
No, they don't do that anymore.
Not on TV?
Nope. All right, next item on the agenda is 24 Sunny Slope Avenue. Bond release and as-built acceptance permit. A continuance of this has been asked till February 1st. Do we have a time, Anna? Mrs. McGinty, do we have a time for
Oh,
Sunny Slope on the 1st?
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh,
So that would be at 7 o'clock, and that's item number 3 under just administrative actions.
okay.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda.
So we just need a motion for that,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
I believe.
Motion to continue this till,
It's an
Maybe not.
administrative action. We don't need a motion
Okay.
for it.
Sorry. My apologies, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Very good. Don't confuse me. Next item on the agenda is 10 Main Street, concept plan review. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let me,
You guys hear?
being this is a special permit. We have 4 people, so this is actually a concept plan. So it's not the hearing per se. So we're all set.
Great. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, who's
Sure.
ever representing, how many people are representing?
Good evening. My name is Eric Gerard. I'm a civil engineer with VHB here
Yep.
representing. We also have Jim Lamp on the phone, on the video. He's with LT Development representing DSM as well.
Okay,
And then we got our traffic folks, Kathleen Keene and Rod Nagy as well, just to
very good.
participate as needed.
Greetings.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
I can't say you have the floor, you have the screen, so go right ahead.
Great. Okay to share my screen? I just want to
Yes,
bring up a few
absolutely.
graphics.
Go
Great.
right ahead.
Hold on, share. All right, now I lost you guys. Hold on a sec. All right. So up on my screen now, I just have the existing conditions. I just wanted to start out by saying thank you very much. We're here for the conceptual plan discussion for the redevelopment of the Stadium Plaza shopping plaza. And we just wanted to come get the preliminary feedback, introduce the board to the project, what we're planning on doing, and then gather any preliminary feedback to come back in a couple months with the full-on permit application to the board. So I'd like to just go through the existing conditions, introduce you to the site, the proposed redevelopment, give some perspectives that the architects have pulled together, our permitting approach, and as well as the coordination that we've done to date, kind of behind the scenes, also with the municipalities. So the site here, you guys are probably mostly all familiar with. It's at the corner of town, and its primary address is 10 Main Street, the Stadium Plaza development. In total, it's about 34.1 acres, and it's within both Tewksbury and Lowell. So we're going to be going through the local approval process in both municipalities. Most of the project is within Tewksbury, about 22.8 acres, with the remaining 11.4 in Lowell. Essentially, the site is bounded to the north, commercial and residential uses, as well as the athletic fields, Clark Road to the south and to the east, and then Main Street, Route 38 to the west. It's primarily within the heavy industrial zone, as well as a small portion out front where the mobile station is, which is in the commercial zone. And it's about existing 282,000 square foot shopping center, comprised primarily of the large strip retail center, the Santander Bank, as well as the mobile gas station at the corner. As you probably know, many of the tenants right now, the vacancy rate, many empty shops over there right now. The proposal is to essentially revive this shopping center, reconstruct all the buildings with the exception of the Santander that would remain. Similar strip as you would see out there today, all new shops, as well as 4 out parcel buildings out in the parking field, which would comprise of a retail pharmacy and then restaurants. Along with the improvements, new parking field layout, landscaping, improved stormwater management, and the modern architecture, as you'll see with the renderings. Overall, this plan that's before you tonight, it's about 241,000 square feet. We are in the process coordinating with the applicant with some potential expansion to the primary Market Basket building that's out there now, as well as some tweaks to the overall building. So the plan that will become before you for the full application will be slightly different than this. Primarily will look the same, but there'll be some tweaks to the overall building dimensions. So it's still going to represent a decrease in overall area to the the existing building footprints that are out there now, as well as a reduction in overall parking that's out there. This plan shows approximately 185 reduced parking spaces compared to what's out there today. And a lot of that space is going to be more landscaping, more green space that's going to be out there, better stormwater management and some surface features to complement the new development. The applicant also is in discussions with the mobile tenant to potentially remove that building and turn that corner more into a more inviting entry, green space, and some stormwater management out front. Additionally, utility connections out here are primarily going to remain similar to what's out there today, just upgrading everything and relocating as needed to accommodate for the building shifts. And also transportation improvements, improved site access along Clark Road. There'll be the primary access is going to get shifted down further away from the intersection to have a more defined kind of boulevard style entrance, a better defined exit for some users. There'll still be an exit at the main entrance. And then similarly along Route 38 and Main Street, there'll be a new right-in slip to get into the site, as well as an improved alignment at the signal on Route 38 at the main driveway with better queuing for better operations in that area. So as we're moving forward here, the kind of anticipated schedule coordination to date that the applicant and our team has gone through, we're anticipating to start the local permitting this winter into the spring, and then a phased construction following the receipt of local permits and obviously following building permits from both the town of Tewksbury and the city of Lowell. Construction timeframe is probably anticipated right now around 2 years, and we'll coordinate with the town on what buildings stay open during that process to keep the maximum tenants that are there now while construction's underway on portions of the remainder. So as far as local permits that are going to be involved with Tewksbury, we got planning board special permit, site plan review, the land disturbance permit that was just discussed, as well as we'll be in front of Conservation Commission due to the proximity to the Troll Brook discharge that's along behind the Mass DOT yard. So we're coordinating traffic study right now in the stormwater management report to support those applications. With City of Lowell, we'll be in for planning board for a site plan review and special permit, as well as potentially a ZBA curb cut for their small curb cut requirements for the potential modifications to the curb cut on Route 38. The owner has moved forward and done a lot of behind the scenes tenant coordination, working with the out parcel potential tenants here to get a design that works with them, that works with the site to be as compliant with zoning as we come before you with the full application. Additionally, with the municipalities, we did have a joint kickoff with the City of Lowell, Town of Tewksbury. That happened right before Christmas on December 22nd to get some preliminary feedback. That's when Ms. McGindy suggested we get in for our conceptual plan discussion with planning board, as soon as possible to kind of kick this off and gather any information that's going to help aid in the local permit process up front. Additionally, we've had some follow-up with town staff, engineering staff related to queuing up the requirements on the traffic study, getting the locations for the intersections to study, as well as advancing it on the stormwater management pieces with the engineering department. So we've also reached out to the fire departments in both Lowell and Tewksbury to make sure that we have the most recent fire trucks to make sure adequate access is going to be provided around the site. So that's generally kind of the gist of kind of our anticipated schedule, coordination to date. And I'd like to also run through the conceptual elevations at this point. If you have any questions now on the site stuff, we can certainly answer them, or we can certainly just run right into these views if you'd like.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions at this time?
Chairman, I can hold off till later on.
Okay,
myself.
very good.
Personally.
Okay, let's do it. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Great. All right, so PCA is the architect that the applicant is coordinating with and working with to develop the rendering and the feel of the site. It's similar to the recent Market Basket construction in Lowell on Pawtucket Boulevard. That's a great example of a kind of the similar look of what this is going to look like. So to start off, this is the front view of Market Basket. Jim, I don't know if you want to kind of talk any more on the architectural pieces, or I can just, kind of run through these on kind of the look and feel of what Eric Brown's kind of portraying here.
Yeah, I can just, I guess, add that this is very preliminary. It's more or less what we use to select the architect. We had 3 architects give us different renderings, and we felt that this was the best to represent the Market Basket store and the adjacent tenants. This will be tweaked over time, but the materials will be durable, and we do a brick store, and we plan on doing a brick store here, but we'll use other durable materials and just upgrade them to be much more modern. In our discussions with staff, we suggested that they take a look at our new store at Rockingham Park Boulevard, as well as our store on Pawtucket Boulevard in Lowell. So those are local examples of stores that we've done that recently that will be close to what this architecture is.
All right, thank you. I know you have one of your newest stores is the one in Maynard, and this looks very similar in style to that.
Yes, that's a smaller store, but it's very similar. We try to select an architecture that tends to agree with the community it's in. Maynard having some of the old mills in the area, we chose brick. This being partially in Lowell, again, we felt brick was more appropriate. We have more rural looks that we've done up in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and we're proposing in Concord, New Hampshire, but we didn't feel it was appropriate here.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. It looks wonderful. All right, gentlemen, you have the screens. Continue if you'd like.
Yep, so just additional views going through the overall, kind of elevations of the main building. Showing the kind of the end cap retail, the smaller units on the end that will face Route 38. Just some closer views of the different types of material, the wood look with the brick on the bottom. And then we'll get into some of the out parcel looks here as well.
Yeah. If I can add, we didn't want to get too deep on the architecture on this round, but in subsequent hearings, we'll have Eric, our architect, Eric Brown, representing, so he can get into more detail on the materials. But we just thought we'd give you a feel for where we think things are heading.
Yep, thank you.
All right, with that, that kind of concludes what we want to present tonight. And
right.
We'll certainly open it up and take any feedback we can.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not one for being too excited about anything, but I'm not sure I can express the proper amount of happy I am in having this concept plan. The best I guess I could think of it is sort of the little brother of the project that's going on up at Rockingham.
Right.
That this seems sort of like that, which I think is excellent. And obviously, it's not a secret to you guys that area is, in need of a facelift and some new blood over there. And if you guys, are look like you'll have tenants for these sites, I don't think I could be any more happy with the idea that you put forth. Obviously, waiting on, the more specifics when they come in. But if they stay in line with what you have here, I will certainly be very happy to look at them and hopefully and quickly approve them. So, but otherwise, I am all set.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Fratalia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also echo Mr. Johnson's opinion. It does need a facelift. That is one of the stores I attend to my groceries there. So I'm in and out of there consistently. So a couple of questions I have is, do you have any committed tenants to the project as of yet?
We are pretty much comfortable that we have tenants lined up for every space at this point, but we do not have signed LOIs. So this is we've been caught in other projects where we've gotten through planning board and the tenant will change, and then we have to come back to the planning board because it will change the square footage, and it takes a lot of time and effort on everybody's part. So we're making a concerted effort here to make sure that we have solid tenancies on all of these, so we can do this once and do it right. Now I'm going to eat those words probably in a year, but that's our hope, is that we feel that the tenancies are pretty much going to be full up by the time we get through the planning board.
Okay.
I'm just not at liberty to say anything until we have signed PNSs. Or LOIs.
That's part of business. Part of business. I have to say this: my wife doesn't ask for much when it comes down to construction and her needs and family needs. We have a lot of coffee shops in Tewksbury, a lot of Dunkin' Donuts in Tewksbury, of which we have about a half a dozen others also. She's hoping we have one more. And I see one of your outbuildings is a coffee shop. Let's just say this: the green umbrellas on the coffee shop made her all excited when she saw that. So that's as far as I'm going to go on that. You can figure that out. I'm sure you know what I mean.
She's got a good eye.
Thank you, James. Thank you. All right.
So I have a couple more questions, Mr. Fowler.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
The other question I have is, are the plans to demolish the buildings or renovate them?
We're demolishing everything except for a small portion of the old Kmart/Sears. The two 22,000 or 24,000, I can't read them right now. Those are using, you can see the dots in there. We're using the existing columns and column lines to try to save portion of that building. All the other buildings are obsolete at this point.
Okay.
So it's going to be a complete tear down. And the reason Eric said it would take 2 years is there's going to be a lot of, we did this in Wilmington, where there's a lot of, building space so we can move an existing tenant on site and empty other spaces so we can demo them. So we intend to keep our store open, the Market Basket store open the whole time.
Well, that was my $1 million question, is the residents of Tewksbury are going to want that Market Basket open. So at some
that's our intention. There shouldn't be a day missed.
That's great. That's going to benefit the Tewksbury residents as well. So that's awesome. My wife is going to be real happy about that. So I guess my last question is, with the increase of the restaurants and the coffee shops that are going to be coming into the plaza, how much more traffic will that entail? And I don't need any specifics now, but it seems like you're having more stores now than you had before. So I guess traffic is always a concern for the residents of Tewksbury, and that can be discussed when we have the actual traffic study coming forward, I would think so.
Yeah, but we have two traffic engineers on the screen tonight, so we can ask them to join in. They've already started counts, and we've worked with both the city of Lowell and staff at Tewksbury to map out where we're going to be doing all the counts. I think the big overall picture is, though, it's a shopping center and we're reducing the square footage by 40,000 square feet at this moment. So with that, I'll give you Rob and Kathleen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jim. And to echo Jim's point, we are actually reducing the overall square footage on the site. So, today, obviously, as was noted, some of the stores aren't occupied right now. So we will, be reoccupying those and re-tenanting those. But in general, when we're doing a comparison of the, existing square footage on site to the future square footage, we're looking at, a small reduction actually in overall trips to the site. And what's shown on the screen right now are the intersections that we'll be considering as part of our traffic study. So there's 9 intersections. Each of those blue dots is an intersection that we'll be analyzing the project's impacts on. So we'll be considering the existing project itself or the existing operations there essentially today. And we'll also be accounting for changes in traffic volumes to account for a typical condition. So, not with COVID and some of the reduced volumes that we're seeing. And then the red lines are also indicating the roadways that we'll be incorporating and looking at as part of the traffic study too. So Route 38 and Clark Road adjacent to the site. And we can definitely share more details on exact numbers as we progress through the traffic study in future hearings.
Great, thank you very much,
All right.
and I appreciate the update. So look forward to the new plans coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, James?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Delaney.
I don't know. There's not too much more to say. I just can't. I wish they could start digging tomorrow.
That's what,
Is
That's
more the word of what I'm seeing here.
that's
The
what
only
I'm,
maybe the only question I have is, do you definitely have control of the mobile gas station at this point? And that's going
Yeah,
to be a
there-
way to get in and out?
They're a tenant at will. So we've notified them that within the next couple years, we'll need them to vacate. So we're working with them on that. So our hope is, if you can see that right end, it's just north of the mobile station.
Yes.
Our hope is that we can straighten that out a little bit, close 2 curb cuts, and then trade 1 slip ramp in or a right in only.
I see.
So that's what our hope is, and as far as I am aware, Mr. Demoulas would like to keep that as kind of a green space on the corner. It will probably be used as detention to some extent, but as an open corridor to be able to have the store seen from the intersection.
wow. All
I
right.
guess I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Everybody else has said what I wanted to say.
Very good.
I wish they, like I said, my big comment is, I wish they were digging tomorrow.
I'm
But the
sure that-
renderings and everything,
Oh,
the renderings and everything I've got right now are fabulous. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's been a proven factor through the years that when Arthur Demoulas wants to do something, he does it. And it's a pleasure to have worked with him on other items, both in Tewksbury and out of Tewksbury. It's an interesting manner in which he takes control of things. I think you know.
Well, he'll be driving by this site every day, so he'll have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, if everybody on the board has had a chance to speak, I'd just like to tell you some of our thoughts on how we came about with this and some of the things that were changed based on staff input.
Yep.
What we did is, if Eric can point out the front of the buildings today, is we've moved the buildings back about 80 feet.
Mhm.
Utilize some of the paved areas and move back the service areas a little bit, but not that full 80 feet, probably in the 40-foot range. But Eric's showing you where the front of the building is today. So what that enabled us to do is to move back the parking lot and allowed us to get some of these out parcels. But at the same time, Eric, if you could identify where the edge of pavement is out on Clark Road. I'm gonna have you do 12 things at once. But
The existing edge?
for the most part, we have backed the pavement off of Clark Road to give more open space along Clark Road. And then in talking to staff, we had some linear islands going from Clark Road to the front of the store that were, typically those are 10-foot islands. On this one, we've upsized those to that one there, I think is 20 feet. The one he's drawing now is 15. There's another one that goes straight to our front door, which is another 20-footer. And then there's another 20-footer that is out off of Route 38. So we've added large green spaces within the middle of the parking lot, which really don't exist to any great extent today, and created more open space along the street. And also talking to Anna, we've added, because it's a part of the town requirements, but we're adding sidewalks along our entire frontage. So there will be new curbing and sidewalks along the frontage to allow access around the whole site.
Wow.
And a great deal of interior sidewalk connections as well. Eric, you're doing a hell of a job. And our hope is this is still a large strip mall. Unfortunately, we because of the tendencies that we're looking at, this still could be considered a strip mall. But we're using the smaller tenants to add green space and architectural interest out front to break it up.
I think the architectural method in which you use what you have, the plans you have now, is changing some of the fronts. It really breaks up. It takes away from that, and I hate the term strip mall.
Me too.
Yeah. But it really breaks it up nicely, and it gives you a lot of character to the buildings.
What's wrong with that?
That's a lot different from that. Right.
But we've also, I think, based on some of the feedback that Anna's given us, is we're providing 20-foot wide sidewalks in some places, larger areas in front of the market where we do seasonal sales, and also 15-foot in front of the market as you go a little bit further to let's call it to the east. So there'll be large islands, sidewalks in front with plantings in front as well. So it won't just be, curb sidewalk building.
Right. Well, thank you. I have one other question, and the only reason I bring it up is because Walmart just did this at their site up on top of the hill. The EV charging stations on the outer areas of the parking lot. Is that something that
we are working? We're doing 2 EV charging stations at our stores in Maine. We're working on another one in Massachusetts. What we do now is we bring electrical conduit to a selected part of the site, or 2 on a site this big, because we haven't done many sites this big recently. But we would bring the conduit to the location. The problem we have is that the technology is changing so quick that we're not sure who the right provider is to do it. It's not something, Market Basket sells food and they do it really well. And we're afraid of, signing up with an electric charging stations that has proprietary type chargers that only charge certain cars. So it will be ready to do it. And when we determine who the right provider is, it can be a quick change.
great?
So we'll have, I'd say on a site like this, we'll probably at least have 2 locations. We'll have future charging stations identified.
Great. All right. Board members, any other questions? And not a public hearing, so we can just, if you gentlemen and ladies, or lady, are complete, we will say thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of months.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Next item on the, we already in, yeah. Next item on the agenda is Robbie Terrace Way. They are asking to be continued until, I believe, 2/1 or the meeting after that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So they're requesting for February 1st, which is next week.
Okay,
And that would be at
Okay.
6 o'clock for number 4.
All right. In motion to continue till February 1st.
Yeah, we don't need a motion, Mr. Chairman. This one.
What happened over here?
It's all set because we don't need a motion for the admin item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is 913 East Street, Francesca Land. Applicant requested continuation till February 1st. You have a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the 913 East Street hearing until February 1st. And are at,
So that one is for 7:10. It's the next
Okay.
available slot.
so for
Okay.
7:10.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Battaglia,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 181 Pine Street. Mr. Plunkett is online, not online, here with us, and he sent in a letter explaining the circumstances as to what's been going on. It's a good thing we got a letter from Mr. Plunkett. That's
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good.
I actually reviewed the YouTube portion of the last meeting after I had left the meeting, and too bad I didn't think to stay around for a little longer. But I mean, this is a situation where, I understand, the desire and request to be updated, but this is not something which nothing has been going on. With certain scenarios, there was a situation where I talked to Mr. Andela earlier, and he said, you can tell him that he was laid up for 3 weeks with the COVID. I know Mr. Delaney had experienced it. Everyone has a different experience. I unfortunately also had experience back in August, and it laid me out for about 3 weeks where I was just fatigued, couldn't do anything. So we had the holidays, we had that, and we would do other things. It wasn't that nothing has been going on. There's been significant engineering going on. I've been dealing with one of the abutters had submitted a notice of a claim, questioning title that was turned over to the title insurance company. The attorney who was making the reference, and I believe that's pretty well taken care of, that we're not concerned with the claim. There are other situations where the engineering is ongoing. We're preparing to come in off of Pine Street. The Whipple Road entryway just doesn't work for the site. And so the intent is that we're working on the Pine Street entryway, that we have heard and listened to the comments, and we understand that we have to address the issues that were raised by the board. And that will be the intent, that when we have our, revisions submitted, it is going to be, it will be a set of plans which will address the issues that the major issues brought forward during the prior hearings. So, bottom line is, there's been a significant amount of work being done. There's issues that are being addressed, and we'll move forward. The 22nd, we've requested, and, we will be, there will be an appearance at that time, one way or the other. We'll come forward, either have a final submittal or updated submittal, or give a full report, a more detailed report at that time as to what has gone on. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
all right. I'd like to jump in there just real quick. if you don't mind, Board members. My only concern is that because of the amount of time and change and dialogue and, we're the ones that asked you to go off, try Whipple Road because it might solve your problems of trying to come in on Pine Street. You can remedy them the other way, that's fine. My only question is this: when you're ready to come in, and you say the 22nd, I believe you said, of February, will that be after you've submitted it to the town engineer? And so he'll have the plans early enough so he can give us his view and comments. So when we meet, we'll know what we're talking about and that it's been finalized through the DPW.
I had a conversation with Mr. Hammer, and one of the issues pertaining to the bump out to the 22nd to make certain that at least some proposal could be submitted to Mr. Hardeman at DPW so that you would have some type of feedback at that meeting.
All right. And if, Mr. Plunkett, if you would, when you submit that plan to him, I'm not sure if you do this all the time, would you tell him that you're on the agenda for the 22nd and we need something so we can take action expeditiously so that you can move on and we can move on. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, and as I said, we understand, the comments in terms of the need to be updated, and, certainly the intent would be that regardless of, what position we're in, it's not just going to be, a statement saying, oh, could we have some more time? It's going to be something we will be give a determination. We should have a pretty good determination at that time as to how we're moving forward.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Plunkett. Mr. Delaney.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to have to talk. No, it's okay to put it off until, February 22nd. But, you submitted a second plan with the entrance coming in off of Pine Street. Is that still in the works, or are you going to change that as well?
There will be a new plan submitted that will be different from the last plan. That's, again, there's been a lot of work being done, a lot of negotiations ongoing, and there's engineering that will be presented and explained in the following plans.
Have you addressed the water situation?
What way? What's the,
Excuse me, Mr. Delaney, if you don't mind, I know Mr. Plunkett is very experienced in planning board issues, but he might not be the person to talk to relative to drainage, etc. Not to take anything away from you, David, but I appreciate you coming in here today, giving us all of this information, but without a full package behind you, with other people in attendance to help you here for their expertise. I'd rather not delay this anymore, and I hope everybody understands that. Is that all right, Mr. Delaney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. D?
Oh, I'm all set.
Okay, good.
I'm waiting for the moment.
Yeah. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm gonna look forward to seeing what the next iteration is. Because I want to make sure it's clearly, and at least from my perspective, I'm indifferent to how long the hearing for a site takes. That's not my issue. I think what Mr. Plunkett identified tonight as what's been going on, and obviously some of the other issues, whether the COVID things, that kind of stuff. That's exactly what I think we were talking about when I'm, or at least I was talking about when I'm saying this is why I think we need to put that rule in place, because everything Mr. Plunkett said completely makes sense. All we need to do is now know that going forward with any hearing, not this one specifically, but all hearings, when we've had a few delays, that we just get that kind of an update, whether it's in writing or someone happens to come in, because everything Mr. Plunkett said makes complete sense. It's what we hope has been going on any hearing that we're waiting to get back to, is that there are things going on. And I think that's good to know and not just presume. And I think that's why I think putting this new rule in will solve that issue, because then the petitioners know that, they're giving us, an update or they need to give us an update. But almost all reasons are acceptable for what's going on, other than nothing is going on. You know what I mean? So, I think just getting that information that Mr. Plunkett gave tonight is a huge aid to us to say, you know what? Business is going on, things are getting worked on, and when they're ready, they'll come back to us. But at least we know they're coming back and there are things in the works, and we're updated about that. I think that's all that I think we really need. It's not that anybody needs to speed up their process any faster than it needs to be to get the job done and done correctly. So that's fine. I bear no ill will towards this project just because it's been going on for a while. I just would like to know stuff's going on, and now Mr. Plunkett has told us that's exactly what's going on, and I'm fine with that. And I hope that we put this rule in place for all of our hearings from now on. That way, we can feel the same way about all of them after a few meetings of postponing things without new information. We need some. That's all. I think that makes complete sense.
Very good.
Otherwise,
Thank you.
well said.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll discuss that after this hearing, after the continuation of this hearing. Mr. Fratalia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo Mr. Plunkett's comments, and I hope you're doing well with your health, Mr. Plunkett and Mr. Mandela. And no real, comments to anybody regarding the delay in the project. I just think it's more of a common courtesy to us as board members to know as far in advance as possible if something's going to be continued, so that we can have our A game on and do our due diligence as far as investigating what needs to be done in the plans and so forth and so on. So I look forward to the plans and for the review. And I guess my only question, David, would be is how many units have you decided on? Is that decided yet, or is that still up in the air?
I'm sorry, Pim, what was that again?
How many units have you decided on as far as the
It would be a 4-watt subdivision.
Okay.
All right.
Great, thank you. Also, Mr. Chairman.
Clarification, my bout with the COVID was back in late August, and Mr. Andela is the one who just had it recently. So I wasn't, thankfully, not quite, once it's not for me. Well,
great. Well, stay healthy, Mr. Plunkett.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, David. And board members, I'm all set. Nothing else from the board. So David, you want to continue until the 22nd of February, correct?
22nd, correct, yeah.
Right.
If anything comes up, again, the intent is that we're moving forward. We hope to have submitted that would go to the DPW. If anything else comes up, I understand the position the board wanted to be updated, and that we would appear at the next meeting, one way or the other, to give an update.
If you feel, David, that something is going on and you don't have information from the DPW or someone else that you need, just let Mrs. McGinty know and we'll continue it instead of jumping in and doing a little bits and pieces, but we'll continue it.
Okay, just show, we respect the time of the board, and, we will do whatever, there was never any intent to not recognize and respect the board's time and effort, so.
Very good.
All right?
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. McGinty, what time do you have for continuance?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. So I don't know if there's anyone on the line that wants to speak, but
I'm sorry.
I have. I'll just let you know it's 7:05 would be for the 22nd.
I forgot to ask. Jason, is there anybody on the line?
We have no calls, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. 7:05, a continuance of this on the 22nd of February.
All right,
Do I have a
thanks very
motion?
much.
You're welcome.
So moved.
Good night.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Fratellia, chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you want to have a quick, just what we're doing with this motion you'd like to give us?
Yeah.
We know
so
what, we know what
I'd
it
like to-
means, but
Yeah, so I'd just like to make a motion that the board going forward will not continue a hearing more than 3 times, three meetings in a row, without any more than that, without receiving either a detailed written update from the petitioner, or the petitioner comes to the following hearing to provide some sort of an update. And that we make sure that we inform all petitioners of this, this new rule that we're gonna have going forward.
very good. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Fratellia,
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you. Mrs. McGinty, on that motion by Mr. Johnson, how would we address that publicly with petitioners?
I would recommend that it's stated when you open the hearing with the or the application, and our office can also remind applicants about that policy as well.
Mr. Chairman?
I think there should, yes.
I'd like to suggest maybe
Yes.
that, if we get a third request from a petitioner
Right.
for a continuance, that at that point they receive back from the office a response saying that, we've received your request for a third continuance. In keeping with the planning board's new rule, prior to the next hearing, you'll either, or at the next hearing, the board, will need to receive an update of the status of the project. Again, in writing or in attendance at that next, which will be then the 4th meeting. And that they receive that back, that way they've been informed as well. Because hopefully we don't get a lot of them where they get to the 3rd one where we haven't seen them. But that's just basically if 3 straight times no one's come in.
Right.
How else are we going to tell them other than sending them back a message anyways?
Well, my thought was tell them up front. Is
Yeah.
there a manner in which we can tell them up front? In other words, it can't be on the application. It can't be. We're not going to do all that for now. But I guess we could do it verbally. But I think somehow we should make this so that they will know it going forward themselves when they come in. So, Mrs. McGinty, is that something you could put your expertise into?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think what we can do is just draft a policy, and then we'll submit a copy to you for the board for your records. And if it's agreeable, then that's something that we would include in the packets that this is a policy.
Good.
And
That's good.
then applicants should know going forward.
That's very good. I appreciate that. I just don't want someone to feel like they're being blindsided by us. But anyways, very good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, old business. No old business, new business. Correspondence. A motion to adjourn is in order.
Mr. Chairman, have we decided on a date on this planning board calendar, or are we gonna hold off until Mr. Ryder has his schedule as well, right?
Yes, I have to
Okay.
talk, I've got to talk to him.
Okay,
Yes, I appreciate that. No, but I'll talk to him.
okay.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
We have a
I
second
can,
on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney,
I.
Mr. Fratalia,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.